The Wiggly Podcast, bringing your garden to life.
Welcome, listener, to the Wiggly Podcast number 25.
Wow.
Woo!
It's a milestone, isn't it? 25?
It's a silver jubilee.
Well, there you
Lovely.
are. Yeah.
Congratulations, Richard.
Yeah, congratulations, Heather, I should say.
And congratulations to you, Phil. He's not here, is he?
Not here.
We've pre-recorded his bit because he really wanted to talk dirty.
Yeah.
So we've thrown him out after he's done his bit. So you'll listen to that in a little bit later, dear listener.
It'll be good.
So what have we been up to this week? Well, Richard's been up in the woods.
And I went up specifically to record some songbird song, and in particular some song thrush song.
We've got Monty popping in, wiggling with his Wiggly Worm cast.
Yeah.
And we've held our In the Cowshed at Night. So Richard's going to tell us all about that. Aren't you, Rich?
I am.
Alice popping in with plans of the week. But first, you will remember our roving reporter, Ricardo, off into Hereford to talk to Claire Short about Bokashi. And it's made the news!
Yeah.
In the Birmingham Post. Do you want to read this one out? And then I'll read the one out in the national newspaper.
Right, okay. Yeah, this is from the Birmingham Post. It says, green-fingered Birmingham MP Claire Short has revealed an interest in converting household waste into compost. Ms Short, Labour Ladywood, said she has recently been using the new Japanese fermentation process Bokashi in her garden. The system turns organic refuge into nutrient-rich soil conditioner. She said, I want to be more responsible about my waste. I've got my first full bin of Bokashi and I'm just starting on the next one, and I'm terribly pleased about it. I like the idea of the liquid going down the drains and cleaning them. I have a bit of a garden where I have some herbs and things, and I shall be using Bokashi there. The process works by adding a mixture of microscopic friendly bacteria, yeasts and fungi in the form of bran to organic refuge. And it says it's sold in the UK by Hereford-based mail order company Wiggly Wigglers.
Good Lord.
That's good.
You see, so our podcast gets us into the newspaper.
Yeah.
So isn't that wonderful? Nice regional newspaper.
Yeah.
And it gives a good report on what happened.
It does.
But now we go over to the Sun. And what is the Sun's spin on this piece of Richard news? Well, it says, I love this. Labour's Claire Short, the rebel former cabinet minister, is yet another MP ostentatiously going green. She's turning her household waste into organic compost thanks to a Japanese fermentation process called Bokashi. And no, there is no T on the end of Bokashi.
Yeah.
The process is sold by the mail order company Wiggly Wigglers, which brings to mind politicians in general, somehow. So they managed to insult Claire Short.
Everybody involved, really. Yeah.
They've insulted Going Green, then they've insulted Wiggly Wigglers.
Yeah.
That's a great article, thank you. The Sun.
I'm stood on the top of Common Hill, which lies half an hour due south of Blakemere and all things wiggly. This is on the edge of the Woolhope Dome. I'm looking down across the Wye Valley AOMB and the church spire in Found Hope and the river winding its way down through the valley, the River Wye. And it's really kind of just getting light. And above me is the most beautiful, plump song thrush you can imagine. And he's singing his little heart out. Just listen to that. These songbirds at this time of year have a fantastic repertoire, and they have to put a great deal of energy into singing, really. Not only is he trying to attract a mate if he hasn't already got one, but he's singing to let all his competitors know that this is his territory, this is his patch.
You know that wonderful book I read, The Farm?
Yep.
And I have gone on about it a little bit, haven't I?
Yeah.
Well, Valley, my mother-in-law, read it, and she's wrote to me saying, Very many thanks, Heather. Very much enjoyed. All the more poignant because Rose Farm is about 9 miles from where my father was born.
Wow.
And San said to me, we must vote for this book because on Richard and Judy, the television programme on Channel 4, it's up for Book of the Year.
Right.
So, dear listener, if you like it, vote, because it's a fantastic book and it's really educational about farming.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it.
Moving on. Got a little bit of feedback from Rosemary Moon, who is a member and past chair of the Guild of Food Writers. She writes, "Hi Heather and all the team. Have been enjoying the podcast for some weeks and recommending them to friends, including a salmon whiz near Inverness who has, since listening in, attended a conference in Cape Town and recommended you to a muck man from Stellenbosch.
Right.
And so it goes on. Kind regards and keep giggling, Rosemary."
Thanks for that. Nice and kind words.
The cat is just going to pounce.
I'm just blowing on the cat to try and stop it from landing on me.
The cat's name is Noah.
Yeah.
The only time that you've referred to that cat's name was when you mentioned it in the same sentence as bird flu.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't I say something like, I'd heard on the news that there was a cat in France was found dead, having died from bird flu, because of course it was spent a lot of its time killing lots of innocent birds.
Propaganda.
So I said, yeah, there's hope for Noah yet.
Yes, propaganda. And I might say that there's just a few moments that you wish that you had a video, and it's now. Because Richard sat on the sofa and the cat has just turned his back on Richard and sat purposely facing the opposite way.
Yeah.
A snippet of pre-recording coming up now, listener, because Phil is currently in Staffordshire feeding back to the Leaf people, linking environment and farming, on how our event went in the cowshed at night. So here's a pre-recording of him talking dirty. I want to know, Phil, bearing in mind now it's nearly the end of March and Lord Bach was absolutely determined that every single farmer throughout the UK would have had their single farm payment. Are you rich?
Not a hope.
Oh.
Not a hope. Last week, the head of the Rural Payments Agency got sacked. Well, they didn't call it sacked, but he was disposed of.
Right.
So obviously the government are feeling that he hasn't been managing his job very well.
And what has this meant to the farm?
It means that to the farm that I've had to phone up my bank manager for the umpteenth time and inquire as to what stocks of the wonga he has in his cupboard.
Yeah.
And can I borrow some more, please?
Oh, and what has it meant to other farmers? Well,
It's bad. I mean, it's the same thing. We're all trying to arrange credit against a payment that we don't entirely know when it's coming and we don't know exactly how much it is. And particularly for those farmers who were up against it financially before, you know, there will be a number who could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. You know, the bank will just say that we haven't got enough collateral to lend you the money.
Moaning farmers rich?
No, he's got a really good point, hasn't he?
I think so.
I'll tell you a really interesting point that I heard the other day, and I think you and I were talking about the other day, is the fact that lots of organisations, what they tend to do is employ people that are similar to the people around the interview panel. So this might well apply to DEFRA, without wanting to sound particularly disparaging, in that because the majority of DEFRA seem relatively incompetent, the people that they're going to be employing all the time are equally as incompetent.
Oh my Lord, I can feel the phones going now.
So you've got an organisation full
I've got to make a comment on that, because I think that's probably true of the management levels of DEFRA, the policy makers, who I have got very little time for at all.
Right.
But the actual unfortunates who have to deliver the policies that are handed down to them, a lot of them are farmers' wives, people from rural backgrounds. They are highly knowledgeable, highly embarrassed and very frustrated.
Right.
So that in my experience at any rate, the actual unfortunates who have to deliver this shambles are very nice, understanding, knowledgeable people. It's the policies and the people above them who I've got no time for.
No.
Anyway, Phil wants to talk dirty. But just before he does talk dirty, we haven't mentioned this absolute gorgeous plant we've got on the coffee table in front of us. So you're going to.
Fritillary. What is it? Snake's head fritillary, isn't it? So when I saw Maggie bring that into the office this morning, I thought, what a fantastic flower. Absolutely stunning. It really is. And Phil came in and with his ecological farmer's knowledge said, is that an orchid? No, Phil, no, it's not an orchid. It's a snake's head fritillary.
You were lucky I recognised it as a flower.
And we've got some of those growing in the Wiggly garden, haven't we?
Yeah, I planted about 15 little plants when we first planted the garden, which was 2002.
Yeah.
And they're sort of in clumps,
Right.
and they are absolutely glorious.
They're so nice that even me, in my frugal nature, I'm going to buy a couple and take home and create a little tiny swampy...
You'll be all right
nice
there,
area
Heather, because you'll have no
specifically for
idea
them.
what the price is. Charge him what you like.
That's right.
I actually feel speechless because Swampy's building a Swampy and he's paying for product.
That's probably because he feels guilty about those that he swiped last week.
This company is
fancy
going to
that.
go places.
Yeah, it's
If we can
dreadful.
flog to Swampy, rock on. Anyway, Anne was telling you where these are naturally, wasn't she?
She was.
Is it right?
I'm completely taken aback by those previous comments you just made.
Oh.
So Anne was telling me that they grow. There's an area called the Lug Flats with big river meadow in Herefordshire. Fantastic site. You get curlews nesting down there in the spring and early summer. And apparently there are big clumps of snake's head fritillary, which is amazing. And I know in the areas in the Thames Valley where you get acres and acres of them, but nowhere near as many as you used to, of course, because of the draining of river meadows generally as a consequence of intensive agriculture. Yeah, it's a stunning little plant.
Bulbs, aren't they? So you
There's
could
a bulb
plant
you
a
can-
bulb in
yeah,
the
you could-
autumn,
you
I
could-
suppose.
Yeah, you could.
But no, anyway, complete, beautiful plant. Oh, shall we let him?
Let him what?
Talk dirty.
Shall we?
Oh, here he is,
More
Farmer
the
Phil.
stage.
What muck have you been up to this week?
We've been mucking out the cattle yards. Lots of muck, because the cattle, we keep in what's called deep litter, so that we just keep putting fresh straw in on top every day, or most days. And then obviously the muck builds up underneath the cattle, and we
Does
muck
that
out.
mean when they eat their tea, sometimes at the beginning their neck is stretching upwards and then they eat their tea from a lower table? Because that really annoys me when you go to a restaurant and you have to eat your tea and your knife and fork is up by your ears.
That's only you there, Heather.
Oh, is it?
Because the chairs aren't tall enough.
Oh,
Yeah, that's only you. So if we go back to Phil.
But that is right.
okay.
And in
Oh,
our
just a minute, it's right.
in our newer
Carry on, Phil.
in our newer cattle yards, the mangers have different settings so that we can raise them up the wall
See?
to take account of that fact. But there is a low setting for those cows that are a bit short in the leg, as it were. But there are actually more scientific reasons for mucking out, because as the calves are born and we get more of them, at about this time of year, the muck is starting to get hot, a bit like your compost heap will get hot. And under those circumstances, it starts to cause bacteria to build up. And
Wouldn't that keep them warm though?
well, cattle on the whole are designed for outside use, so that you don't really want to keep them warm. It's much more important to keep them ventilated but draft free. But having this build-up of bacteria, you get a build-up of disease pressure. And the calves being the most vulnerable ones, you can run into problems with scouring or infections getting in through the navel. And so that we try and time mucking out so that majority of the calves spend the time between now and turnout in a yard that is mucked out, so the disease pressure isn't as high.
Right.
If we get it right, and this year I'm pleased to say we haven't, touch wood, had any problems with scouring or navel ill, you can get it cleared out and the yards are all fresh and clean, plenty of air movement, and the calves will be healthy because of it.
How much muck is produced?
You have to guess in terms of tonnes, but roughly speaking, each time we muck the yards out, there'd be about 400 tonnes of muck.
Cool, I bet they feel better for that, Rich.
I'm sure they do.
And that all goes just down the road to our neighbour, Tony Dale, and he gets it out to the yard, and we use a Bobcat, which is a little skid steer loader, which is great fun to drive and almost as much fun to watch. But the
It's not, Rich.
advantage of that is that it's very quick and it doesn't damage the yard because it's small and precise.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason that we don't spread on this farm our own muck is because we grow everything for seed. We don't want the contamination of any seeds that have gone into the muck getting spread out onto the field and then coming up as rogues in the following crop.
Why don't you just heat it up and then you'll have composted it?
Can't guarantee to get it 100%, and given that one seed of the wrong species is enough to reject a 25-tonne lorry load of high-grade seed to grow. You've got to make every effort. The flip side of the coin is that you'll then say, well, there's no organic matter going back into the soil, but because we have a lot of grass seed in the rotation, grass is very effective in itself at putting organic matter back in the soil. So that is the quid pro quo for not putting the muck on. If we put the muck on, we wouldn't be able to grow grass seed, so that the one balances the other out. And actually, I think the grass seed improves the land better than spreading the muck.
Because you've still got the cattle that go out onto the fields, but
Onto
they're
the
not
grass
onto the arable
fields,
fields.
but not on the arable fields.
And does Tony Dale have to pay for the muck then, or does he pay for the mucking out?
Years ago, when times were good, he did pay for the muck because he grows quite a lot of potatoes, and muck is considered a good thing before a potato crop, and he used to pay us £1 a tonne for the muck, and he paid the cost of getting it out and hauling it. Now I'm afraid my £1 a tonne has gone by the board, and it's just down to the fact that he gets it out of the yard and hauls it away.
Right.
That's another measure of the decline in farm incomes, that muck is no longer worth £1 a tonne.
Just a minute.
There you are. That's a good point to end on, I think.
All right. What a grumpy he is. Oh, I'm glad he's not here today. Off you go, Rich.
In Phil's defence, though, fair play. You know, he did a grand job on Saturday night, didn't he?
He did.
The cowshed at night was brilliant. It was really, really good. It was really well orchestrated. Lots and lots of juicy, crunchy information. And it was a great night out. I really enjoyed it, even though I sort of come over here quite regularly. I came over with Sarah. And how many people do we have? About 40 altogether? Something like that?
I think there was probably about 50 people with children.
Right. So there was a nice mix of people as well, farmers and people that weren't familiar with the farmy ways. And the groups were split into two, weren't they?
Yeah.
And Phil escorted a group out into the cowshed. My Sarah's really quite frightened of cows.
Really?
Yes, he said to Phil afterwards, I bet you didn't realise that I could move that fast when we went into the cowshed. His idea was to go into the cowshed and then walk across the shed, through the cows, and up onto the feeding platform. So of course we went into the barn doors, and there was a bit of a commotion, a bit of movement, by sort of protected mother boves.
Yeah.
And Sarah scarfed across the barn and was up on the top of the platform in no time at all. Normally I've had, can you give me a hand, help me up, Rich? And no, I didn't have any of that time, straight up there. So that was great, and people were able to stand on the platform and listen to Phil procrastinate about all things bovine. And it was really good. He came up with some good, useful information, and I think there was probably a little bit too much for most people to take in that one session.
Yeah.
But there was lots and lots of information talking about husbandry techniques, talking about how he markets his animals, and then of course we went off and saw the bulls at the end of the session, and Phil talked about the different cuts of meat. So it really did give people an insight into how their food gets onto their table. And then of course we came back in here, and there was a heather presentation, wasn't there?
A heather lecture.
A heather presentation. This is great. A flip chart presentation.
It's really difficult doing that. Yes, I was a bit nervous. Yes,
but
it was fearful.
You pulled it off. You pulled it off, and there were some good questions. There were some. It was your presentation, I guess, was geared around raising people's awareness about how they buy their food, where they source their food.
Shall I give you a bit of the feedback that we got?
Yeah.
Okay. I should say that all the food was local produce. So when you hear that, the food is the highlight, that was part of the evening.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you like? Seeing the calves and the cows look so happy and well cared for. What didn't you like? Leaking wellies. And I must say, I know who that lady was.
Yeah.
And she forgot her wellies. And she kind of stole Jodie's.
Right. Yeah.
And the Jodie's are well known for being blue wellies with a hole in them.
Yeah.
Of course, you didn't know that. And she found out when she did the
dipped her foot in the disinfectant.
Foot. That's right.
Yeah.
And what we missed out: where to buy our beef. What have you learnt? Lots and lots. I feel reassured about how the cattle are cared for.
That's good, though, isn't it? I mean, if people are coming here and being able to say that they're reassured about how their animals are cared for, that's great.
What did you like? A great pleasure to be in your cowsheds. What didn't you like? I don't think generally people are willing enough to spend enough money or attention on food. Perhaps it needs to be more expensive or scarcer. What do we miss out? Nothing. Oh, and she says, I feel unhappy about pigs. I think they have a worse time than cattle or sheep.
Because there's a situation with pigs, isn't there? If you're like Danish bacon, for instance, then chances are you come from a pig that's been tethered all its life. Whereas, if you source some British pork, generally those pigs have been, not always, but often they've been left to roam outside, so they've had a reasonable life.
Absolutely. One more. What did you like? Liked all the information provided about food and farming? A magical experience. What didn't you like? The cold. It was cold.
It was cold, yeah.
Although was so enchanted by the evening, soon stopped thinking about it. Comments. Great to have an insight into how real farmers produce and their thoughts. What do we miss out? Nothing. What have you learnt? What a blog is. Yippee! And more about cattle and production. And that's from L. Cockram in Malvern.
Right.
So there we are.
Thank you.
So you, Ricardo, were the roving reporter of the evening.
Yeah.
And
hopefully we've got some good sound bites.
Well, we'll listen in now.
Right.
My mother-in-law and Monty, somewhere or other. Hello, Tony, come in. And we've also got Kevin. Where's Kevin?
He's right in the kitchen.
Okay, you'll meet Kevin because he looks after the cows. Well, we had the mickey taken out of us for this event. We have seriously had the mickey taken out of us for this event. Why on earth would I want to look round your cowshed? They have said. But the thing is, somebody must want to look around our cowshed because you're all here, aren't you?
Just wanted a drink.
I was just going to say, and don't say it's because of the free beer, because we only sorted that last night. Well, you follow in the wake of some very, very famous people who've been to Lower Blakemere Farm. We have had some amazing people here. We've had Bunny Guinness, ever heard of her? She's off Gardener's Question Time. We've had John Craven, off Country Farm. We've had Prince Charles, but most amazingly of all, we've had Ken Goodwin off Central News. In fact, Tony, where you're stood there is just where Prince Charles stood while he was eating his organic egg sandwich and sipping his Earl Grey tea with honey. And do you know what he said to me when he stood there? He said, Heather, I've got a pair of great tits in my garden. And I was able to say back to him, have you really, sir? What's it all about then? Another balmy Heather idea. No, I don't know about you, but I've been brought up in the countryside and I don't necessarily know what's going on the farm at all. I didn't really know the type or the quality of the food that I ate. And what about all those mysteries in farming? You know, those initials. RPA, DEFRA.
Well, at first, when he was born, I thought he was completely balmy. But he's not balmy. But he is obviously a bit of a runt. But we realised that if you get him near any straw, he just eats it. But he doesn't swallow it. And we clear that out twice a day, and he'll then go and suck his mother. And he's absolutely, you can see, he'll actually come to us to have that straw taken out. I don't know what the prognosis is, because I keep hoping that one day he'll learn to chew it and he'll sort it out. Well, they'll start chewing things right from the word go, but obviously for whatever, you see there he is now, he can suck again. I'm hoping that when we put them out on grass, that he'll deal with grass and not straw, but he's obviously one that requires a bit of extra TLC and demonstrates the fact that it doesn't always go to plan. But don't ask me, nobody I've spoken to has ever seen that before, and I certainly haven't. Fillet steak comes from, it's where your sirloin steak comes from. Top side, silver side, all down here, these are the meaty bits. Then you come up to this end, you've got chuck steak and various shoulder blade joints and so on, brisket, which is this bit, and then you've got belly, ribs obviously, and so on. And as I say, selling that bit of the cow is the challenge. Anybody can sell any amount of fillet steak, but it's actually reminding people that there are really tasty joints of meat to be had from that end of the cow. That is the challenge that we as farmers have, because there's all sorts of different ways of cooking meat, and you can do lots of things with it. And Penguin's very obliging because he'll let us show you.
Richard, the roving Ricardo reporter, that was a fabby-dabby. I knew I could rely on you.
Thanks, good.
Listener, really, we recorded an article to say if it goes wrong as well. So I've got 2 of them.
So you're recording this conversation.
I'm recording everything we're saying now. Yeah. So did you have a pleasant evening anyway? So have you learned something tonight?
So you run this organisation then, do you?
I do.
I see. Who are you then?
I'm Richard.
Richard. Yes. We've heard Richard.
So,
many times.
Yeah, you will have done. Do you think it was a worthwhile evening? Have you enjoyed yourself this evening?
It's about information I don't want.
It's definitely something we've got, as farmers, we've got to try and do more of. Because, I mean, people don't come on the farms to do the hop picking or the potato picking like they used to do years ago. The general public are too remote from the farms here. So, yes, we have to. We will have to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
And I mean, you get a feel of the atmosphere tonight. You get a feel of kind of the type of people that have come along. And I mean, has the information been conveyed as adequately as it might have done? Do you think?
This is just a tiny scratch from the surface of what needs to be done. But yes, that's a step in the right direction. Yeah, you've got to admire him for taking this challenge.
Yeah. So you farm? You
We grow a lot of seed.
What do you farm?
Beef and sheep. I've been fattening for. Still recording this. For the last 10 years, I've been buying them stores and fattening them.
Right.
But I've got some fatteners there now ready to go. But I've also got this time for the first time for yours. I've got some single suckers I've just calved out. So I got some single suckers. So I got calves same size as Phil got in his shed.
So why did you decide to do that for the first time this year then? Well, change.
As a conventional
Have you changed your ideas a bit?
Somebody said the other day that they'd had a lot of grain.
Well, store cattle has been getting too dear and too scarce, and I was thinking that a lot of people would be going out of cows now with changing the beef cow subsidy.
And somebody quite reasonably said,
taking the beef cow subsidy out, I said there'd be a lot of people,
conventionally
especially
grain that got contaminated with organic.
so there'd be less store cattle available.
Right.
So I thought, well, if there's no store cattle available, I'm out of business if I can't buy any. So,
How it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been paying now £600, $625 for up to store cattle, and unfortunately, the beef's only. I'm selling beef in the autumn, and I'm enough to get $750 for cattle that I pay over £600 for. Well, of course, then you're losing money.
Yeah, you're losing money. Yeah.
You're losing money at that, but of course there was subsidy on that. That was fine, but I mean you can't do it without there being there was £100 subsidy on those.
Right.
So that
it's still not much though, is it? Really, when you think about it. Even with a subsidy, it's still not. You're not making a fortune on them, are you? Really, the amount of work that's involved.
That's right. That's right. It's just running around chasing your tail for nothing. But it's what we do. We're conditioned. It's our way of life.
Yeah.
That's right. To give up your way of life is a very drastic decision to make, and we haven't got to make that decision yet.
Right.
So we've started doing something different, and it'll take us probably 5 or 6 years to realise we can't make any money of this.
Right.
So then we'll
try something else. With all these changes that that have been instigated now through the single payment, do you think when you eventually get any payment from the RPA, do you think you're going to be better off? Do you think the countryside will be better off as a consequence?
It should be. I'm terribly sorry.
I see this single farm payment as our redundancy pay. When they closed down the miners, there was a lot of money put into mining communities in the way of retraining, redundancy, money and that sort of thing. We've got this 7 years now, or 6 years, of single farm payments where we will be able to reorganise our businesses. If we want to stay in farming, it'll be up to us, but we'll be on our own. If we take the opportunity now of doing something else, we've got the payments now for the next 6 or 7 years, in which case you can retrain, do what whichever want to do. So it's up to us now. This single farm payment is our redundancy.
Right.
And that's it.
That's it. Sad state of affairs, really, isn't it? You know? Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts with me.
That isn't my blackest thoughts. I got worse thoughts than that.
So they're fine.
Oops, Ricardo. Bit difficult to hear there.
Yeah, a bit too much background noise, perhaps.
50 people in a farmhouse is not conducive to a quality recording. Never mind. No. The gist of it was, what did Clive say?
What didn't he say? I think one of the things I remember from something that Clive said, he said, well, I think the government are organising a redundancy package for us. Yeah.
Let me think. Who else said something? My brother said the best thing about the whole night was the onions.
Right.
But Jackie did make them, and they did blow your head off, so that's fair enough.
I didn't see any onions.
You didn't see any onions?
No.
Oh, they got chilli in them. They were really delicious. Jackie Payne makes them.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Somebody said Heather doesn't like Tesco's. Well, that's simply not true. That's not true.
No.
And they were amazed at how much paperwork there was with the cows. You know, with the passport for individual cows.
Yeah.
So we'll talk to Phil about that again. But anyway, Ricardo, the roving reporter, has failed in this time because it was too noisy. Never mind, Rich. Better luck next week.
The Wiggly Wormcast Podcast by Monty. A weekly fact on worms. Cyber Candy in Britain sells chocolate-coated mealworms at £4.20 a bag. I wouldn't like them, though, because they're covered in plain chocolate, not milk.
Thanks, Monty. That was great. Hi, Al. Good to see you. What have you got for us today?
Watermint today.
I know I've seen watermint growing, and it is a stunning little plant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really, really strong scented. You can use it in various different things. You can put it in a lot of cooking.
Yeah.
When you have your new potatoes and peas,
Right.
chicken away, you can use it for that.
So you can use it in the same way as conventional mint?
Yeah, as conventional mints. It's a lot stronger though.
Really?
So you have a really nice...
Better flavour?
Yeah, better smell. I use it in Pims in the summer.
Yeah.
Particularly lovely.
Yeah, just the job.
Mm.
I remember when we did BBC Gardener's World last year, and Heather went off to get some Pims and came back and she picked some mint from the garden, from our show garden,
yes.
and chucked it in. That was really nice. Yeah, a nice little touch.
That's what you were doing over there.
Yeah,
Drinking
right.
Pims while we were busy working.
Yeah, fun in the sun.
Dreadful.
Yeah. So you've got this now, and if people they plant this out now, how long would it take? Now that obviously looks like quite a sort of
it's
humble
died back
little
now,
plant
isn't
at the
it?
moment.
Yeah. They do grow quite vigorously, and do have to control them. They're best probably planted in baskets, really, so you can actually control.
Right.
But in a small pond, you'd only need one or two because they spread is quite a mass.
They do spread quite quickly. I suppose.
And they root and cling onto things, and they spread from there, so they go along the ground.
Right.
But yeah, it needs a bit of control, this one, but it's lovely.
Yeah. So really, I suppose in much the same respect as conventional mint, a land-based mint.
Yeah, that's it. Because
That's
if you
quite
have
basic,
normal
isn't it?
mint in your herb pot, that takes over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, same with that one.
Excellent. And the flowers, can you describe the flowers?
Yeah, they're like a pale pinky purple cluster on the top of each stem. The bees, butterflies and loads of insects love this plant. It's a real good one. And you can hear a whole humming of bees when they're in flower, this
Is
one.
that right?
Yeah, it's just lovely. Yeah.
Stunning.
It's really good, yeah.
Excellent. So really, it's worth having. I mean, not only you can use it to feed yourself.
Yeah, it's good having a
Provides lots of
plant for
colour.
your wildlife and also to be able to eat some of it. Great.
Spot on. Yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Thanks, Al.
Thank you.
Oh, another week over, Rich.
Yeah, I tell you, you're off skiing now, aren't you, somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you going?
Well, I'm going skiing in Banff, but today I'm just...
No, not today, you're not.
No, today I'm just...
You just thought you would rub that in a bit.
Yeah,
Just to, you know.
but I'm off to Holland to roving reporting from a worm farm.
Right.
So that's on next week's show.
That'll be good.
So we'll see you then.
See you then.
Any comment on that, Rich?
No.
I love it when he does that. I don't know about all
We
the
were
diseases.
talking about politics this morning, weren't we? Having a right raging row about
Yeah.
about yours and mine being slightly different, although perhaps similar in some respects.
They're not similar in any respect.
You just need to come round.